believe we are live.
Hey.
Hello there. Today might be the day to do hello there for our episode.
Yeah.
Everyone, welcome to episode 2 of Star Wars Rebels Revisited.
Welcome. Good to see you all back with us this week.
Thank you for watching with us, and in case you are trying to tune in, Facebook is the place to be tonight. We are not live on YouTube, but we will be sharing this to YouTube once we finish recording, so you'll be able to watch it up there. But we're live on Facebook. I just shared out the page to my followers, and we'll be watching the chat for all the conversation and everything. Ashley, how was your weekend? You ready for another great Monday?
Oh, totally ready. I've been rewatching some more Rebels, just trying to, get my mind back into the game, and can't wait to talk about it with you all.
I hope everyone else also watched some Rebels. I know that's what I did on Sunday. It was sort of my relaxed day, and I rewatched a little Stranger Things too. The Kate Bush and the climbing up that hill, I can't get it out of my head. So.
Oh my God! I've seen so many great videos about it. It's hilarious. It's a good moment, but the memes are hilarious.
Oh yeah, it's kind of it's one of those real cultural impact moments that no one could have predicted. So I did that, and I watched some Star Wars Rebels. I was deep into season 2. So tonight's discussion is going to be all about the Inquisitors. So I was rewatching some of my favorite Inquisitor-specific episodes with the Fifth Brother and the Seventh Sister in particular. Now, I've already watched Twilight of the Apprentice 100 times, so I skipped those two, because we'll probably do that for a watch-along at some point, too. But yeah. I had to remind myself how we had gotten to that point. So it was a fun rewatch. Just giving a look to who's following along with us. Hi, everyone. Welcome.
Hello.
Let's get into comments now. I'm bad at doing both. You can see my eyes starting. So as we get started with the discussion on the Inquisitors, I know we had asked people to tune into Rebels, to Obi-Wan this week, as we were going to connect to Rebels. Funny enough, I think episode 4 had the least connection to Rebels out of the entire series so far. It was very Jedi Fallen Order and a little bit of Clone Wars, from what I could tell. But I do want to talk about the first 3 episodes, and then dive specifically into the Inquisitors as well. Mm-hmm. I think that's probably the best structure for this. So let's jump into Obi-Wan Kenobi episode 1. Episode 2, they gave us this double premiere thing at Celebration. Did you get to watch during Celebration weekend? Because I had to wait till I got back to New York.
Oh, it's same with me, but you know what? People were so good about not coming to the booth and, dropping spoilers and everything. I have to give a huge kudos to everyone who came by the booth and didn't ruin it, because I had to wait until Monday to watch it.
Yeah, I had to wait as well, and I heard a few things here and there. Obviously, we knew from the trailers we were going to get the Grand Inquisitor, and it turns out the Grand Inquisitor from Rebels is the same Grand Inquisitor from Obi-Wan Kenobi. It is the same character. It's not just the same species. The look is a little bit different, as we talked about last week, I think because of stunt and whatever other execution, live action versus animation, but it seems like this is the same dude, and he has a pretty prominent role in the first 2 episodes of Rebels, of Obi-Wan, almost as much as he's the lead villain in Rebels Season 1, and he has with him the Fifth Brother, who I thought was very well done in Obi-Wan so far.
Yeah, so far he looks great. He's got that quiet but stern and wicked demeanor. Totally loving it.
Yeah, he's scarier, I think, in Obi-Wan than he is in Rebels.
Yeah, he's more of a brute in Rebels.
Yeah. There's also an interesting power dynamic that I want to get into among the Inquisitors, because it seems a little different in Rebels versus Obi-Wan. Obviously, the Grand Inquisitor's at the top, and for anyone who doesn't know who the Grand Inquisitor is, actually, we're going to go through the list, guys. So in the chat, tell us who your favorite is and why, and if you have a favorite moment that maybe got you to that point, because we have some thoughts, and I think we're going to debate on the channel who's our favorite of the Inquisitors. We all have different characters that we sort of lean to. The Grand Inquisitor, I did my research. I went to the Wookiee, I went to the internet, I went to Star Wars Explained, I brushed up on all my reading. The Grand Inquisitor, and they actually reveal this in Star Wars Rebels, he's someone who used to be a Jedi Temple Guard. A lot of Inquisitors are former Jedi. In some cases, they are younglings who are abducted, but several Inquisitors were part of the Jedi Order. Several of them had the rank of Master, and then they were taken to the dark side. This guy was literally a Jedi Temple Guard, which is a really prominent station and one that I think is pretty challenging to find your way into. And apparently he was at the trial of Ahsoka Tano, and then when Barriss Offee was revealed to be the person who actually perpetrated that crime, he was there as well. So they didn't tell you exactly which one. You know, they're holding the yellow lightsabers, but apparently he's in the shot with Barriss and with Ahsoka at the temple. So you can imagine that has a little bit to do with his radicalization, that whole nonsense.
I think he breaks it down when once you watch him with Kanan, when the ghost of, am I getting it confused with, it wasn't Rebels, right?
Yeah, Shroud of Darkness episode.
Shroud of Darkness, yeah. Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. When he reveals himself after he's passed in the temple to Kanan, like, I was a Jedi Temple Guard. I was there when Ahsoka Tano, when this happened. And, you know, then it's like, oh my god, like, this is someone who's supposed to protect the Jedi way, and he just, like Barriss Offee, he completely became disenchanted with the Jedi Order and flipped. So seeing that huge change is just jarring.
Yeah, you can imagine this would have been the path for Barriss. I have thoughts about her. I want to come to her at the end because she's not an Inquisitor, but she was a rumored Inquisitor for a while, and she's out there doing some type of bad stuff, we assume. Before we get too much deeper into the Grand Inquisitor, I think we should list out the other ones who were prominently featured across the series. Fifth brother, as we mentioned, is in Rebels and in Obi-Wan, and his partner in crime in Rebels Season 2 is the seventh sister, one of my favorites, played by Sarah Michelle Gellar. Yeah. She's badass, right? She's really fun.
So wicked. I love it.
She's the same species as Barriss Offee as well. So there was a moment when they revealed that character artwork that people were saying this woman must be connected to Barriss in some way. But they're the same species. You know how that goes, right? People try to make their connections, and you know, is this someone she would have known? Is it someone she could have teamed up with? There was a lot of speculation when that happened. And then they revealed Sarah Michelle Gellar to be the voice, and it became like sort of the big news bump around Season 2 of Rebels, for sure. And then, who else we got in here? Fifth brother, seventh sister are really the key villains of Season 2 of Rebels. Eighth brother pops up in the very end in Twilight of the Apprentice. And then we have all these other Inquisitors that are introduced both within the Obi-Wan Kenobi series and in Jedi Fallen Order. So we have a stack of them to go through. Let's go back to the top and start the Grand Inquisitor. What we love about him, what we think is interesting in the connectivity between Rebels and Obi-Wan, what are the must-watch episodes, all that kind of stuff. First off, in Rebels, he's voiced by Jason Isaacs, who is just fantastic.
Absolutely.
You know, he's in Harry Potter as Malfoy's dad. So, you know, whenever Malfoy is like, wait till my father hears about this, like, that's who I think of with Jason Isaacs, right? Like scary dad Malfoy, right? Mr. Malfoy. And it doesn't win in the end, but like creepy throughout 8 whole movies, and especially like for a child, I'm sure seeing Jason Isaacs in that role with the long blonde hair and all that must have been really scary. I think he plays the Inquisitor even better than the character of Malfoy. I would put those two characters right up against each other.
To me, if you're going to have a villain in the animated series, Jason Isaacs is like top-notch acting with it. You have Admiral Zhao in Avatar: The Last Airbender. You have, obviously, the Grand Inquisitor, Lucious Malfoy. Like, the man knows how to play a villain.
Yeah, he knows his stuff for sure. And he delivers some really incredible, like, conflict for the Ghost, right? So we're introduced to him very early, actually right at the beginning in episode 1 in Sparks of Rebellion. He's not like the main villain of that episode, but he becomes the overarching villain of all of season 1. He's second command only to Vader, and it seems like he takes orders directly from Darth Vader, which we assume means the orders are coming directly from the Emperor. And he's on Lothal chasing down the crew of the Ghost, and he chases them throughout season 1. I think his best first moment really interacting with the crew of the Ghost happens in Rise of the Old Masters, when he lures them to that prison using Luminara's body. That's some dark stuff, right?
That was some creepy stuff. I was just like, wait a minute now. Yeah, it just goes to show you the level of depravity that, the Inquisitors will sink to in order to lure a Jedi out and destroy the Jedi Order once and for all.
Yeah, it's sort of over the line. If you think about like what a war crime would be defined as, like we're using a dead person's body and a hologram voice to tell them, oh, this person's in prison. It's a trap. Like many things in Star Wars, it's a trap. But like when this show premiered, we very much said like, oh, this is a kid show. It's for kids. Like that's this is Firefly for kids. It's got a cute crew of mischief set across like a pretty serious background, but like there's a tone to it that's funny and humorous. And when we do our Sparks of Rebellion watch along tomorrow, you'll all see like, oh, this was meant for a target audience that's younger. And then you get to like episode 5, and it's like there's Luminara Unduli, who's a major player in the Clone Wars, dead in like a coffin thing, and the prisoner refers to her, mummified. And it's like, oh, her bones will serve the Empire well, or have served the Empire well. And I was like, her bones! Like it was very that, like the horror, and he traps them in that little room, that little prison room.
Yeah.
Kanan and Ezra go in there, and he confronts them, and he's just very calm. He reminds me of like Dr. Lecter, how like his heart rate never goes above a certain level. Like he's super calm even when he's ready to like slaughter them with his lightsaber, which is really, really creepy. Somehow Kanan and Ezra get out of there. Obviously it's episode 5. We're not going to kill our main cast immediately. But like, he really duped them, and they sort of escape by the skin of their teeth. They find out that Luminar is dead, so we check another one off the list of who didn't make it out of either Order 66 or from the Clone Wars. The Clone Wars RIP list just keeps growing, and then he continues to be a thorn in their side for the rest of the entire season, as Lothal continues to get like deeper and deeper into like the Empire taking them over, basically.
Now, to tie that in with this week's episode of Kenobi, where Luminara was in that chamber and she looked like she was kind of frozen or mummified in amber, we saw something similar to that in the Fortress Inquisitorius, with all the other Jedi and Padawan that were kind of frozen in stasis somehow. And that was a huge callback to that scene with Luminara and Unduli.
Oh, yeah. And Jurassic Park. Very timely with Jurassic World coming out right now. So when Obi-Wan says it's not a fortress, it's a tomb, it actually made me think of this episode, The Shroud of Darkness, so I'm glad you brought it up. It was really sad because, one, there was a child in there. We saw a dead youngling, who I think was in the opening scene of the Obi-Wan show, just to like add to like the tragedy here. And then there was the old master from Clone Wars, who he was the one who helped Ahsoka find her lightsaber when it went missing. He was the one from the library. I'm blanking on his name. I should have written it down. But he's in an episode with Joe Costanu, and he's super old and had like trained a bunch of the younglings and then sort of retired, but helps Ahsoka out in like a major episode. And it's nothing in Star Wars is ever random. There's always these like interconnecting Easter eggs. And so to show us this old Jedi Master who was in the Clone Wars, who has a very specific task of helping Ahsoka find her lightsaber, why Obi-Wan Kenobi sees him in the Emperor or whatever, as opposed to anyone else, like, who, like, there's going to be a connection to the Ahsoka show or something later. Like, it could have been anyone else in that Emperor for sure. But, yeah, it felt exactly like that from the Rise of the Old Masters episode. Tara Sanube. Thank you, John.
Yay.
All right. Thank you guys for doing the...
John with a win.
Yes. So, other episodes, so good connectivity point right there with
Sherry, thank you. Sherry says she saw a meme today with the cane of the crystal, the amber crystal on top, and then the youngling in the cane. So, that's kind of messed up.
I've been telling you, my first thought was Jurassic Park, so I'm not surprised that someone had memed that. Yeah. I do think the Grand Inquisitor in the first 2 episodes of Obi-Wan is very on character for the way he is in Rebels. He's very determined but patient, very creepy, and very like almost slow moving and methodical and precise, and doesn't hit the anger levels, and then you balance that against like Reva, who's the third sister, who is Moses Ingram, basically the third lead in the show. She's certainly the lead villain, and she's, man, is she rage. She is Anakin episode 3, fireball of anger, just like at that 11 constantly, and like the Grand Inquisitor has to like push her down. So such a different energy there, and of course she stabs him, which was, I was like, oh no, I was like, this isn't gonna end well for you.
Now, Rupert Friend, who plays the Grand Inquisitor, he was on, I believe it was Jimmy Kimmel recently, and he was talking about his role as the Grand Inquisitor, and he mentioned something about 2 stomachs.
Yes.
So I'm like,
Well, he's got one now, from what I could tell. But yeah, I mean, also people get stabbed with lightsabers all the time and they don't instantly die. I think it helps that it like cauterizes. You know, yep. You know, there's never blood, which is just a great like special effects trick. Also, like you don't have to worry about like TV ratings and whatnot. But in universe, people lose limbs constantly. Someone had just put together a list of like all the things that Obi-Wan had chopped off, and it was like you could build a person out of it, like between the arms and the legs and the hands. So it's not super surprising to see the Grand Inquisitor like is going to live from his injuries. The real question will be like, what will he do to Reva as punishment?
Because Vader's already mad enough at her.
Yeah, Vader's pissed. Fifth brother doesn't like her. Although Vader does have a direct line to her. That's what's so interesting about Reva. She seems to be, even though on the pyramid she seems low, despite what her rank might suggest, like being third sister. I think the numbers are arbitrary. She's certainly not third in command. Fifth brother appears to be higher up on the chain than her, and certainly uses the Force against her, and in a way that like was really scary when he was like levitating her or whatever it was in episode 3.
Right.
So I don't know what's going to happen to her because she does seem low on the totem pole.
But she's, in all her rage and all her anger, she's still very calculated. Like she handles things directly out of rage, but she always has a backup plan for it, and that's what I totally admire for her character.
Yeah,
I think
super smart.
The fact that she messed with Lola and put a tracker in her before she let them go, so just brilliantly calculated, always one step ahead, even when it looks like it's a failure.
Contingency planning, which is something Anakin was good at too, and Ahsoka. I think it's a good skill to have. It's very, you're right that she's got a balance of, in the moment, act, like very Anakin, right? Like dive in and then figure it out as you go. Whereas Obi-Wan would be more the long-term planning and, step back and assess the situation. She's very Anakin, which I really love. And I think interestingly, the Grand Inquisitor feels a lot more like Obi-Wan Kenobi, which makes a great, I actually think like at some point the Grand Inquisitor and Obi-Wan Kenobi need to confront themselves, like have a confrontation themselves, because they have not met yet. The Grand Inquisitor interrogated Joel Edgerton, Uncle Owen, right? And that's as close as he got to Obi-Wan, because then he was stabbed and he was sidelined, right? But Obi-Wan and the Grand Inquisitor are like pretty similar. They're both playing a very, very long game. They're both very patient, very like Qui-Gon patient. You like patience. They say it all the time, and it's why I can't be a Jedi. Like I'm straight to the Sith. I have no time for that. But he certainly seems like he'd be a great foil for someone like Obi-Wan because they are so similar.
And they both reached that level of mastery in the Jedi Order, and I feel like ultimately they know all of the ins and outs of what it takes to be a Jedi, and that's ultimately what makes the Grand Inquisitor such a good Inquisitor, and how he must have been a master in the past.
Oh yeah. So. And just to close the loop on where his journey ends, so to speak, and we can't really know if it's really him, because, the Jedi Temple does its things. In the Shroud of Darkness episode of Star Wars Rebels, after the Grand Inquisitor is killed by Kanan in Fire Across the Galaxy, which is one of the best episodes of the whole series, in Season 2, in Shroud of Darkness, Kanan actually gets knighted within the temple through essentially the Force Ghost of the Grand Inquisitor as the Jedi Temple Guard. It's all very confusing. Like, take that sentence just on its own, and it doesn't make a lick of sense, right? And I don't think that the Grand Inquisitor died a hero or got redeemed in the Force. I think the Jedi Temple sends you what you need in various formations, and it's like this is the closest that Kanan would have to someone who could, like, theoretically knight him other than, like, Yoda or someone. So, I think for him, like, I don't think he died a hero. And by the way, I should bring up him being the Grand Inquisitor. It makes me think he's ranked #1 under Vader, but the rest of the numbers, I think it's the order in which they joined, or something else that's a little more arbitrary. It's certainly not a ranking, because if we were going to rank the Inquisitors based on the information we have, within the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, certainly the Grand Inquisitor's in the 1 spot. It seems like the 5th brother is maybe directly under him because he uses his powers against Reva, and the poor 4th sister, who doesn't say a word, is just constantly, like, yesing him and just listening to his nonsense. She seems a little subservient to him. He seems to think he's next in line, and he even says that out loud. So it's like Grand Inquisitor and then 5th brother. But if we jump ahead to Rebels, 5th brother is certainly taking orders from the 7th sister. That happens all the time. Like, Sarah Michelle Gellar is constantly bossing him around.
And then in that case, it might be the order from that they joined. It don't think it has anything to do with power, because clearly you can see they're all very powerful. Yeah, I think it's more about, like, joining order.
It certainly seems that way. And one of the interesting things, too, about their real identities is it's intentionally unrevealed to the viewers and the listeners and the fans. 5th brother, 7th sister, 8th brother, I guess 4th sister. We don't know their names, and in some cases even their species, and that's intentional because records were destroyed. Like, the Empire, this is the in-universe answer. I think in some cases maybe they just didn't want to develop all that background, but Star Wars loves developing background. But they did give us an in-universe out to that, and it's basically that within Order 66, a lot of the original names and backgrounds of the Inquisitors were destroyed to keep them from being known to the galaxy, and it's also one of the reasons they leave Coruscant. So in the Darth Vader comics, at one point there's like 12 Inquisitors. Number 10 was named, I forget his name, and 11 and 12 were killed, but like after that whole kerfuffle happens, they moved from Coruscant out to the moon near Mustafar, onto the water world with the castle, the one we see in the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. Yeah. Mirror. So the Castle Inquisitorius, which I love. Such a cool design. It was so cool seeing it in, like, true live action, because it looks amazing in Jedi Fallen Order, but on, like, the live action, in the volume and, like, the practical, effects and everything, incredible.
If I was working on that show, I'd be like, looking around, like, this is amazing.
It's so nuts, and it looks so good. The money they're spending on these D+ shows is just incredible. Let's run down the rest of the list before I forget. Sure. We do. I was re-listening last week's episodes. Like, we do a lot of tangents. We jump in and we jump into comments and stuff. But I do want to list out the rest of the Inquisitors. So Grand Inquisitor we talked about pretty thoroughly so far. If you want his best ups, Fire Across the Galaxy, Rise of the Old Masters, Path of the Jedi, Shroud of Darkness. That's your Grand Inquisitor fix. 5th brother, he first pops up in the Always Two There Are, which is when he first appears with 7th sister in Season 2 of Star Wars Rebels. Future of the Force is when they're going around kidnapping children, so that's always fun. I actually think that's a great episode, and we should probably all watch that together. And then, of course, Twilight of the Apprentice. And that's true for 7th sister as well. Like, the two of them share episodes together pretty closely. And both those voice actors are terrific. By the way, Philip Anthony Rodriguez is spectacular as 5th brother. Sarah Michelle Gellar is killer as 7th sister. I love her, and we'll talk about her in depth.
I feel like he gets more lines than Kenobi.
Yeah, I will say, he is... If we looked at his character, Kenobi to Rebels, there's probably a lot more differences than with Grand Inquisitor. He does get a lot more lines, more leadership, for sure, because he does feel like second in command to 7, in Rebels anyway. But this time around, he seems like right next in line. So I don't know what happened in, like, the 10-ish years between this. I have that timeline, too. I wrote it down somewhere, and this is what happens. You put it in the wrong spot, and then you don't know where to find it. It's the timeline of, what happens when... Oh, here we go. Jedi Fallen Order, which is the video game we've referenced. And for anyone who hasn't played the video game, the good news, you don't have to play the game. Everyone has played this game and has put their walkthroughs on YouTube. So you can watch the cutscenes like a
Thanks,
movie.
guys.
Yeah, 2.5 hours straight through from start to finish. It's a great game. Cal Kestis, which the lightsaber just came out at Galaxy's Edge a little while ago, played by Cameron Monaghan. He's killer. We got him to sign autographs when I was at Topps. He plays a Padawan, a closeted Padawan, much like how Kanan was a Jedi who was not revealing his powers for a while. He gets outed and then gets chased down by the second sister and the ninth sister. They're the real villains of the game. Cal's the protagonist. You have to go across various planets. You build a lightsaber. You have to go to Ilum, which is really cool and also sad now that we know it's gone. And then you meet Seer Junda, who is a Jedi Master who is also in hiding, played by Deborah Wilson.
Deborah Wilson's
really cool.
Amazing.
So cool. We got her
cool.
to sign autographs too. You know, and that's also sometimes how I love. I was like, were they cool? Did they sign autographs? Yes they were. Cameron was great. Deborah Wilson was killer. And then the game continues from there, but you can watch the whole story play out, and then you get revealed like who the second sister is, who's the big mysterious villain of the game. She's really the lead villain. So second sister, Trilla is her real name. She is a former Padawan of Seer Junda, we come to find out. And then
spoiler alert.
Yeah, spoiler alert. It doesn't go well for her. She has we'll say an encounter with Vader at the end. So I do not expect to see her going forward if that leads you where you need to go. The ninth sister is also the other villain in the game. And she is like a big giant, but she's a Dawutin. I don't know how to pronounce that, but she's a gigantic ogre-looking kind of thing, super strong, but also very smart and very focused. She's in the comics as well. And you defeat her sort of midway through the game, but it doesn't look like she's confirmed dead. She falls out of a giant tree on Kashyyyk, though, so it's not looking great for her either. But in theory, she could come back. But that's really the most important of the Inquisitors. The fourth sister in Kenobi hasn't said a word yet. So I'm curious to see what's going on with that character. Because
I know a lot of people were saying that she was the seventh sister when they first saw her appear in the trailer. And judging by those little head tails, it's and the facial markings, it's not her at all.
No. Played by Raya Kilstead, who's in Yellowstone. She was in Charmed. She was in Dexter. So she's an on-screen talent. And by the way, her IMDb was comprehensive. So I'm sure the actress is terrific. They haven't given her anything yet. Doesn't mean it's not going to happen. But also, not every character can have every line, and so you never know sometimes. But I'm curious to see if they do anything with this character. But Reva is getting a nice amount of screen time, which I'm very happy about. I think she's a terrific addition to this group. And then there's one other important Inquisitor. There are a couple others, like 10 and 11 and 12, that like we don't really need to care about for this show. But I think that there's one that's going to come up in the Ahsoka series. Probably in a flashback based on the timing, but the sixth brother. This is a really important Inquisitor for Ahsoka. His real name was Bill Valen. I love that his real name is Bill. It's one L, so at least it feels a little Star Wars-y. But we'll refer to him as William on a go forward. Ahsoka actually kills him. He's one of the villains in the Ahsoka novel, and he has the Kyber crystals that actually belong to her. So you know how she abandoned her lightsabers? So she's been living life on the run for years without her lightsabers. He and her have an encounter, and she figures out how to explode them, and it kills him, and then she gets the lightsabers, and she unbleeds them from red, and that's why they're white. So they don't go back to blue or green, but she turns them from red to white. So it seems like it's a two-step process if you want a white lightsaber, is what I can tell. But she unbled them, I think is the phrase they use in the book, what we would say purify, and that's how she gets her white lightsaber. So the sixth brother is really important, and he's in the comics, did not appear in Rebels. We didn't see him in Obi-Wan yet. I don't know the exact timing for all this. But I think that he may appear somewhere else. They don't just like drop these characters in and keep them in one medium anymore. Everything has to cross between. There are some questions in the chat around cloning and M counts and things like that. I think there are a couple of reasons you would want an Inquisitorius. One, an army of pawns like stormtroopers is useful for, patrol, police, large-scale invasions, show of force, that kind of stuff. But Inquisitors are more effective at chasing down high-profile, dangerous people, doing terrible things, things that are harder to achieve with like a regular soldier, but also being able to kidnap Jedi. And if one of your goals is the long-term cloning, you need blood from Jedi, is what it seems like, right? It could be one of the reasons people are being kept in these like little stasis ember chambers. Like maybe they're not dead, maybe they're not, maybe they're just suspended in animation, almost like carbonite. I don't know.
Right. It's like some form of, for all intents and purposes, amber that
Yeah.
they can still be alive. They won't age, but they're still useful for genetic material. And I feel like that's where they're going with this. They're trying every way that they can to keep the cloning from Rise of Skywalker relevant in this. So kind of I don't know, backtracking, but keeping everything cohesive. It's definitely looks that way.
I do think there's a long-term plan, and I think cloning has been a part of Star Wars for a long time. Like it was a big part of not the Thrawn novels. The Heir to the Empire. Like there's a clone of Palpatine, and he apparently clones himself multiple times throughout all of those books. So cloning isn't really new. The M count thing popping up, and obviously we did Attack of the Clones and the Clone Wars, but I'm thinking specifically like Jedi and being able to replicate those powers. The thought that Rebels, Obi-Wan, the Ahsoka show, Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, the new trilogy can all have this through line of like how does Palpatine continue or how does evil continue in this form, and it's partially that Palpatine will not let go. He does not die even when you kill him, and so we're going to try to clone our way out of this by using the blood of Jedi. Also, wouldn't you just want to like build your own dark army? Like, I feel like that's a good plan. If I were running an evil army, like, the people I'd want doing it are, like, corrupted Jedi.
Absolutely.
I think that's really probably the most likely thought. If we're going to keep any of them alive, and actually, as I'm seeing in the chat, I'm wondering now if Obi-Wan is even correct when he says it's a tomb. Could it still be a prison? Like, could those people be alive? I almost want to take an over-under on this. Hey, in the chat, what do you guys think? Because now a few of you have got my thoughts going. I didn't think about any of them actually potentially being alive. Do you think they're, this is so dark, do you think they're dead or not? The Emperor. I'm going to go with I think they're dead. I think that they probably had their blood extracted to whatever level they could. But like, I think maybe it didn't work. Maybe it wasn't super useful yet. But I don't think those people made it.
I'm gonna say they're not alive, but they're not dead. Like again, they're like the mosquito in Jurassic Park. They're dead. They're not eating or drinking, but they're still being harnessed and farmed for their genetic material.
That's true. You could work off a cadaver. All right. I think. All right. I'm gonna go with dead. But if we find out that like they're in the equivalent of carbonite and it's just a different format, it wouldn't be super surprising,
No, and I think you see that also with the Snoke clones. Like they're in that weird kind of yellowy green jelly, and I think it might be a form of that material.
Maybe it's like a different type of Bacta tank kind of thing. Yeah, it's certainly possible. There's so much in the Star Wars lore, and a lot of times they'll just come up with something and then they'll throw it in to a visual dictionary and then expect that everyone's just gonna like keep track, and know it going forward. And of course I will, because I'm a big nerd, so I'll read that stuff. But I always have to Google.
Pablo Hidalgo knows what he's talking about. Those visual dictionaries are amazing.
Yeah. Oh, great reference. So I should say Wookiee, Star Wars Explained, and Pablo. Those are the three spots to go get your information from to triple check all of your notes. We did it as licensees all the time. I mean, obviously Lucasfilm would correct anything if we got anything wrong. But when we were building sets, when we were trying to tell the right story, when we were looking up reference material, the visual dictionary was a great starting point. And then I always back it up with Wookiee, and like if I really needed help with something, like Alex almost always had a video.
Absolutely,
those are the go-tos.
It's totally a go-to. And even when Galaxy's Edge first opened in Batu West in Disneyland, if you went into the refresher or the bathroom, you could hear Pablo Hidalgo talking about the creatures on Batu or the droids on Batu, and kind of like an informative museum type descriptive recording as you're in the bathroom, and it's just like, okay, I don't want to leave. I want to learn more about the Lothcats.
That's awesome. Oh my god.
I
didn't
don't know
realize
if it's still there anymore. I went recently while we were out there for Celebration, and I didn't hear it. So I think it's something they might have done away with.
I don't remember, because I was just there in March, and I don't remember that. But I probably wasn't paying attention. You know how it is, like, the day just evaporates.
It totally does.
I'm seeing a good question in the chat, and this is one that pops up all the time with dark side users. The issue with the rule of two, and how do the Inquisitors fit into this? So my understanding of the rule of two is that it's really for the designation of the Sith specifically. So if you're a Sith Lord, you can also have one Sith apprentice. Obviously, this boxes you in, right? Like, you had Emperor Palpatine as Darth Sidious, and then you had Darth Maul. And Darth Maul was then replaced with Count Dooku. But if you watch the Clone Wars, Count Dooku has an assistant, Asajj Ventress, who is sort of his, not Padawan, or even apprentice, but, like, she was more so like a hired gun. You know, she was...
an assassin.
Assassin, bounty hunter, you know, but, like, still part of... It felt like the pyramid, part of the hierarchy. Just she was never given the title of a Sith. And it is a very minute distinction, and it's an in-universe distinction that lets them get away with the fact that they really trap themselves with this rule of two nonsense. It makes me think of actually the whole thing on Batuu, that it's set between movies 7 and 8. So it's like, oh, you're talking about a week? Like, so we can't do nothing there. So now they're saying, oh, Batuu's been around forever, and by the way, Boba Fett visited once, so you can see him over here. Like, you need to start finding in-universe answers to, like, expanding the story beyond the thing you originally trapped yourself into. I do think the in-universe answer for me is good enough. Like, the Inquisitors understand that they can't be a Sith because Darth Vader exists and they'll always be under him, and the person over him is Darth Sidious. So they know their place. And Darth Vader has created an environment where, like, the 12 of them, or however many are left now, anywhere between 1 and 12, all report under him and can never jump him, leapfrog him in any way. But they could be the Grand Inquisitors. They're now fighting for, like, the bronze medal. But they'll never be, like, part of the rule of two unless Darth Vader actually dies. And I don't think any of them are stupid enough to think they could take him on. Because when we saw 10 and 11 go after him, they were killed pretty quickly. So there's no hope for the rest of those Inquisitors to try to...
And Reva definitely knows her place after that whole scene.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm seeing here the rule of two only applies to Sith. They're just, they're assassins. They're dark side users. And that's how, like, you explain the Night Sisters being around. Yeah. And by the way, I love Reva. I think if anyone would be a really interesting Grand Inquisitor after the Grand Inquisitor, she would have a very different approach.
Absolutely. A lot more ruthless.
Oh, without a doubt. Like, she would have burned down all of Tatooine. She would have been like, yep, I killed everyone there, so obviously I killed the Jedi. Mission accomplished.
Exactly.
Right.
Spencer says they're diet dark side users.
He's not wrong.
Not wrong.
That's right on. You know, Coke and Diet Coke right there. By the way, I love me some of the Diet Coke characters. I think Asajj Ventress, I think Barriss Offee, I think all the Night Sisters like Mother Talzin, even Savage Opress, like, they're all... And he was sort of... Darth Maul was sort of acting like a Sith and treating Savage like a Sith, which is why Palpatine needed to eliminate Savage Opress.
Mm-hmm.
Like, also to tie up that loose end from a story perspective. So sometimes there's, like, a perfectly practical reason why this is happening in the real world, and then we need to manufacture an in-universe answer. I always come back to, like, The Last Jedi and the fight scene with the Praetorian Guards and, like, the sort of disappearing knife, and I was like, she dropped it. The in-universe answer is she dropped it. Like, it's a special effect that didn't work, and, like, you can see the knife evaporate in the air. She dropped it. Like, we found the in-universe answer. It's the same thing with this.
Right. Yeah, I feel like it's kind of another comparison to, you know, I know a lot of comparisons have been drawn between the Empire and Germany in World War II, and it's kind of like the Inquisitors are the secret police for the Empire, and they know their place within the world. They're just ruthless enough to carry out what they're ordered to do, and it takes a special kind of Sith user to be such a ruthless person and kill all these Jedi. So
yeah, they pulled from their own, right? It's the
Right.
phrase is like there's a special place in hell for, and it's usually the person who does the thing to their own people, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
All of when I was doing my background on all of the Inquisitors so far, almost all of them are confirmed to have been survivors of Order 66. So, because at least at this point, timeline-wise, like abducting a youngling wouldn't have yielded you as like an Inquisitor at this age yet. Like it's kind of too early in the timeline. If you stole a youngling, like at the start of on Empire Day, they would still only be like a young teenager. Like these Inquisitors look like they're in their 20s, 30s, 40s, older. Like they're fully fledged out adults, right? So they're mostly former Jedi Padawan or Masters, which is more horrifying, right? Like they already did their time as like in the Order. Grand Inquisitor being the best example of that. Him being part of the Jedi Temple Guard, which was such a sacred position. But yeah, it's amazing to see how they all got corrupted.
Now, I have a theory about that, though, real quick.
Mm-hmm.
I think where you see young Reva and the rest of the Padawans trying to escape from Order 66, I'm thinking as you're talking, I think she sold out the rest of her Padawans. And that's how she grew to be an Inquisitor. I think either she was part of something or she decided that she had no choice, that it was the only way she was going to survive, and she sold out her fellow Padawans, her fellow younglings. And I think a lot of that is her struggling with the guilt, but also trying to prove that she belongs there. And I'm interested to see where it's going to go from here with that.
Yeah, the opening scene of Obi-Wan, they show us those Padawans. They zoom in on that girl, and then one of the first people we meet is Reva. And so there's an instant thought of like, is it that same girl from the opening shot? That seems to be an online theory that a lot of people are taking to right now, and I wouldn't be surprised. I actually like that idea a lot, that she is a youngling who survived. She is younger than all the others. Now that I'm saying, I was like, everyone's so old. She might have been a youngling that they could have abducted at Order 66 and about that age. I'm trying to think of how old Moses Ingram is. She looks older in the show because I think the armor and the gear and everything like ages her up. But then you see her in real life and it's like, oh, you're so young. In theory, that could be her, and I wouldn't be surprised. I will say it would also closely mirror what happened to Seer Junda in Jedi Fallen Order. They capture her, they torture her. She ends up giving up the location of Trilla, and then Trilla gets abducted and becomes the second sister. And Trilla has all that rage for Seer and everyone else because they turned on her. That would be a very similar execution to what happens with Reva if that's the case.
Moses Ingram is 28.
She looks so much older in the show. Am I crazy? Guys, I'm not being a jerk here. I'm not saying she looks like an old lady, because in real life, Moses Ingram actually looks younger than 28. But in the show, in my mind, she was in her late 30s. And maybe it's the combination of the gear and the fact that she's like trying to kill people. It just ages her up.
I think it's just the level of authority that she has in the show and the amount of power she brings to it. Yeah. It's something that we would expect from like an older actress, and she's phenomenal.
Yeah, like her hair is very heavy too. Like the whole look is just heavy, right? Like she's got all this gear. She has big hair. She has this giant lightsaber. She is chasing people. She is screaming at people. She is angry, which I love. I think that's you usually don't get that from the women characters. They always try to make them not angry, and like they're usually like the calm, focused ones. And like this lady would have burned down all Tatooine, which would have been amazing.
Been glass, all big ball of glass, because she would have taken everybody out.
Yeah. Poor Uncle Owen. The fact that he's still alive is like a minor miracle. Someone pointed out too, like, how crazy is it that they got that close to Luke in the first, like, landing the plane, right? Uncle Owen's right there, and it's like they're that close to the real chosen one, right?
And they have no clue.
Yeah, that's the thing. No one's looking for Luke. All right, what I love about Obi-Wan, to veer off of the Inquisitors for a second, is the subversion of expectations. I really thought it was going to be Obi-Wan Kenobi babysitting Luke from a distance, and there's some kind of thing on Tatooine, and maybe they think that they're getting close to Luke, and so he has to leave to create a distraction. Had no idea young Leia was going to be involved. Had no idea that she was going to basically be the second lead in the show, that Luke was going to be non-existent. I haven't even seen Bonnie Piazza's Aunt Beru yet. Like, I really thought we were going to be all in on Tatooine and a very Luke-focused story, and instead, boy, did we get swerved. And we're running around the galaxy, learning about the underworkings of the rebellion, the path, Leia, the inner workings of Alderaan's politics with Bail and Breya. I had no idea.
Right. And how she knows she's adopted, which is something you don't know, at least in live action form, for years. We don't know that stuff.
No.
And it's just been a gift.
And this is where I struggle with the fandom sometimes, when they put their own expectations into what something should be versus what the thing is that we've been given, and then how you evaluate that. Like, everyone's got their own expectations going in of what they want out of the show. I usually just always say, like, I want a good story. I want an interesting story, and if I'm right about my theories, great, and if I'm not, also great. Like, however it lands, as long as it's told well, and I'm interested, like, I like it. And I think where they're going with Obi-Wan is really interesting. It's not at all what I would have predicted, and I think that's what works so well.
It's making me want more. Like, given that we have 2 more episodes, unless they're like 2 hours each, like, too good for just 2 episodes. So, please, more.
Yeah, I'm hearing the rumor. So season 2, we were told it's a limited series. It's going to be a one season thing. But, like, given that this story was sort of a one-off that is only taking us across like a week in time, like, you could easily set a season 2 with maybe a Tatooine-based adventure. Like, you can imagine switching it up, and it's all of a sudden now we're going to focus on Luke. But I like also how they're elevating Leia into the same pantheon of, like, she is just as important as Luke. And he should have been taking care of both of them the whole time. I guess, like, Bail and Breya are perfectly capable of taking care of Leia. It's just, like, they ran into some bad luck with, the Inquisitors trying to, rustle out a Jedi. That's really not her fault. But there's definitely stories to still be told. I would watch more of Obi-Wan. I think that would really be my big statement about the show. I would watch more.
Absolutely.
Tomato thumbs up. There you go. No, let's do it. As we continue the Inquisitor deep dive and the connectivity to Rebels, I do think it's worth talking about Fallen Order for a second. As I mentioned, this episode of Obi-Wan had the least to do with Rebels and the most to do with Jedi Fallen Order. If you played the game, a lot of fun. If you don't want to play the game, if you're not a gamer or whatever, watch the 2.5-hour cutscene movie-style run-through of it. It's really great. You'll see the Castle Inquisitorius. You'll see Cal Kestis swim underwater and enter the castle. Like, they take some of these storylines beat for beat. You'll see him fight Vader. You'll see the second sister as a great villain throughout, and you don't really find out her whole story of her being Trilla until the very end. So we are spoiling a bit, but, like, the game's been out for a couple years now, guys. And it's just really fun. And you'll see some great fights, too. Like, the Ninth Sister is just, like, big and, scary, and a really great fight in the game. And there's also a Night Sister. There's a bunch of awesome characters. And what it makes me think is, if Jedi Fallen Order as a game can have this much impact on what I would say is, like, the signature show of the year for Disney Plus, where is the rest of the connectivity going to take us? Like, I feel like everything is up for grabs at the moment.
Absolutely. It's so cool to see how, like, I don't know, the web goes out and throughout the universe and where it's going to take us. I really thought it was cool where it looks like it's such an impenetrable fortress, and it definitely does give that vibe in the game, and how they translated it from the game to actual real place in live action. It was just it was so cool to know that we got to go inside and see those hallways and have fights in those hallways in real life.
Yeah. That was incredible.
Yeah.
The water coming in looked really good. The effects were terrific. It's a beautiful set. I thought the whole castle was done really, really well, and the characters are really interesting. Like, across the board, I think the Inquisitors are being handled well. And who knows, maybe we'll see some of the Jedi Fallen Order characters, more of them pop in. Like, I should mention the timeline. So Jedi Fallen Order takes place 5 years after Revenge of the Sith. Obi-Wan Kenobi takes place 10 years after Revenge of the Sith. So Jedi Fallen Order is 5 years before Obi-Wan Kenobi, meaning Cal Kestis already snuck in, like, dove into the water, found his way into Castle Inquisitorius, and did all this damage and like fought Vader there, and then Obi-Wan Kenobi does it 5 years again later, which makes me crack up.
Now, do you think Cal is the one that supplied the rebels with the map of Fortress Inquisitorius and how to get in?
So the big question is he part of the path? And I think yes. So as I think about why we get introduced to characters and why they continue to pop up, it's always for a reason. Nothing's random, and it's never just for money. Like, it always also has to have a payoff. If Disney wanted just money, they wouldn't have built the theme park the way they did. They would have done, like, a very cheesy, like, you know, Death Star globe like Epcot and all the silly lands around it and all that. Like, there's a reason things tie together for, like, a long-form narrative. So Cal's lightsaber popping up in Galaxy's Edge right as the Obi-Wan Kenobi show is starting, like, is not a coincidence. Like, I say that all the time. Like, nothing happens without there being a plan in place, even if people think it's clunky. So I think that, like, Cal, and the fact that there's a sequel video game coming, means that he is going to be included in some form down the road, whether it's just the second video game that has connectivity to the Obi-Wan show, or we'll see him in another series, like maybe in one of those Tales of the Jedi animated things. Like, maybe we'll see him in the live-action Ahsoka show. He, in theory, is young enough, like, he's the same age as Ahsoka, I think, basically. So he could be in Mando or Book of Boba Fett or the Ahsoka show, like anything in that, like, Age of the New Republic timing, even as far off into, like, the new trilogy. Like, he could, in theory, still be alive as a human. Like, he could just about make it into the new trilogy timing. I would love to see him there because I think he's terrific. And he could have gave the rebels that information. So maybe he pops up in Andor.
Yeah, and it's also because we have Jedi Survivor coming out as well.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see how that ties into the world we already know, not just Jedi Fallen Order, but Kenobi, Rebels, the prequels, everything. And
you know we're going to get more of the path. Like, there's no way they introduce this, and then they built this video game, Fallen Order, about a Padawan who escaped and was doing, like, sort of the Underground Railroad kind of thing. Then they give it a proper name in this show. Mm-hmm. It's going to continue. And we don't know how many years after Fallen Order Survivor will take place. It could be before the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. It could be right in the same time period. It could be right after. So I don't know. It'd be interesting to see where he lands. But I think he's part of the path. I will say there was another Easter egg in the path, and it was less of an Easter egg than some of the other ones because he said it out loud. Quinlan Vos. Mm-hmm. When Obi-Wan says that Quinlan was here. That was emotional because Quinlan is such a great character from the Clone Wars. He doesn't have any screen time in Rebels, but his story continues with Asajj Ventress in the book.
Dark Disciple, yeah. And also Jan Duursema's comics with Quinlan, she created him. It's phenomenal stories. She knows the character so well, and it's going to be interesting to see how, and I hope they do because it's amazing, if they tie how she depicted Quinlan into a future Star Wars property. So
I would love to see more of him, for sure. I want to look at some of the comments. There's a couple of interesting ones that just popped up. Robert says that Obi-Wan is dealing with PTSD, and every episode he's trying to get over it and become more and more like the guy we're going to see at A New Hope. I've read a lot of analysis of the character of Obi-Wan right now, and we're in a very hopeless time period. We're at the lowest of low. We're at a nadir point, right? Like, Obi-Wan's at the lowest of his powers. He's disconnected from the Force. He can't meditate. He can't hear from Qui-Gon. He hasn't spoken to Yoda. He's worried about Luke. He's, like, constantly anxious about Luke. So much so that he's, like, attached to him to the point where his attachment is preventing him from, like, connecting to the Force. And I was like, oh, shades of Anakin. And then when he actually realizes Vader is around, not even realizing it's Anakin at first, he, like, goes full, like, can't blink, scared, can't turn on his lightsaber, runs. Like, I've never seen someone, like, at a lower point. We're going to have to see him now crawl out of this, which he started to do in the latest episode as he invades the castle. Like, he was starting to reconnect with the Force and everything. I think it's an interesting exploration as to, like, how you overcome trauma and grief and pull yourself out of, like, a long-term depression. Mm-hmm. I don't know how you would do it here, like, on your own with no help in the galaxy, and then all of a sudden, like, you're being asked to do the impossible.
I feel like it's like when you're delving into, like, the deepest parts of grief. You know, he lost his brother, he lost his friend and Padme. He shut himself off from the Force. He's got this concrete mission ahead of him, and I think he realized that I have to push all that aside. It's about survival. It's about getting Leia out of here. It's about getting back to Luke. It's about completing the mission. He stopped being scared and just felt and used the power that he had. And it was a fierce wake-up call for him. Like, it shook him to the core. And it's how he was able to get out of there.
It was overcoming fear for sure, which that was such a theme of the first movie. They kept talking about Anakin being a young boy, being very afraid, afraid of losing his mom, afraid of leaving his mom, afraid of, he was 9 years old or whatever it was, and he was going to be, leaving from being a slave to now coming to the temple. And I feel much fear in you. That was like a whole thing. Obi-Wan's afraid this whole time, and he's like, he won't trust people. He's just unwilling to leave Tatooine until his hand is like fully forced to do it.
Same with the Force.
Yeah, terrified of Vader, and it takes him overcoming that fear to then get to a point where he can like reconnect. And in theory, like he probably should have drowned in that temple. Like he shouldn't have like been able to control the Force that well. But he gets it back pretty quick. He Jedi mind tricks those guys, and then he's like back to almost his old self, and then he gets away. So I'm curious to see like his powers grow. We only have 2 episodes left. And we know he has to face Vader again, and we obviously know he has to live. The stakes couldn't be lower. We know they're all coming out of it alive. So,
I know.
And it's going to have to be an epic battle for that reason.
Right. And I think, that's where it kind of rests on the Inquisitors to just, okay, we know that Kenobi survives. We know that Vader survives. We know that Leia survives. Where do these Inquisitors fall into it? Because we know that we don't see the, I can't think of it right now. The Fourth Sister and Reva.
So 3 and 4.
Later. So what happens? Where does it go from there? Or do they defect?
Yeah. This is a fun little game. We used to do this on the Journey of the Darksaber. I would ask people, like, bring your predictions. By the way, I don't think I ever got anything right. So I'm just going to throw that out there now. I'm never right when it comes to this stuff.
Well, that's the fun of predictions.
Exactly. They should be crazy. Will the Fourth Sister live or die? By the end of the series, right? And if so, do you think she'll stay with the good guy? If she lives, like, does she stay with Vader, or do you think she defects? Reva, same question, right? Live or die, and then does she stay with Vader and the Grand Inquisitor, who are definitely coming for her? The Grand Inquisitor is going to come for her. Or does she, at the very least, leave? Not necessarily defect, but like leave and maybe go do her own thing, almost like Asajj or Barriss did. I think those are the questions we'll get answers in 2 weeks. So, a week from this Thursday, so 10-ish days from now, we'll have answers to both those questions, and we can talk about it on that show.
Right. I'm going to say she goes on an Asajj type mission. I think she's too resourceful. I think she realizes that she might be in over her head, but she's too resourceful to just, die or or leave. I think she's gonna have a mission, and she's gonna be doing the best she can to reclaim her name and reclaim who she is outside of the Fortress Inquisitorius and outside of the Jedi. And it will be really interesting to see where that goes.
Yeah, I think she has a bright future ahead of her in terms of content that's coming. I agree with Scooby over here, though. The Fourth Sister's feeling more and more like a red shirt.
Agreed.
Yeah, so someone has to die. There need to be stakes. We know it's not Uncle Owen. We know it's not Aunt Beru. We know it's not Luke or Leia or Bale or Brea. I guess Brea. No one's going to kill Brea. We know it's not Obi-Wan. We know it's not Vader. Like, we're running out of characters to kill. So far, we've killed, like, one dude off screen, sort of. Like, and then some.
But do we not know it's Brea? Because we know that Bale is alive in A New Hope because she says my father. She doesn't say anything about her mother.
No. I don't think they'll kill Brea in this series. But I don't know if she's alive in A New Hope timing. That's really the question. But yeah, I think that should be our prediction. So if we're going to assign homework again, this could be our weekly thing. Bring your predictions for the Obi-Wan finale of what you think is going to happen to all of the characters. I think that'd be a great talking point for when we then do our wrap-up Kenobi show in 2 weeks. Because we'll obviously need to do all the tie-ins and then make even greater predictions for maybe Andor and Ahsoka live-action show, right? Because I think there's going to be a lot of connectivity with both of those. Rebels is so tied to Rogue One. We're going to have to do like a whole Rogue One like deep dive at some point.
Oh, I'm totally for it. I think I lost my damn mind in the theater when I heard General Syndulla, please wait. I was like, what? Where is she?
We got some stills, close to when the film came out, and the ghost was in there, and I like lost my mind, and I was like screaming about the ghost, and like, what are you talking about? This giant picture of all the ships. It's like, yeah, they're there, man. So they've been there throughout. I also think as a way to celebrate the end of Kenobi, after we do our Kenobi wrap-up show, so we should talk about the upcoming content that we're going to do. We're going to do a watch-along next week for Sparks of Rebellion. We think it's important to watch the premiere. So, the first 2 episodes of Rebels, it'll be 40-ish minutes long, so we'll do a little intro talk. We'll talk throughout the episode, and then we'll do some closing. But we'll watch Sparks of Rebellion next week. It'll be a nice, like, how you would start off, like, the whole series. It's really fun.
So excited. Those episodes are great.
They're fun.
You guys are going to have a blast.
You're going to really enjoy that. So next week, tune in for Watch Along of Sparks of Rebellion. The following week, we're going to cover the finale of Obi-Wan Kenobi and prove all my theories wrong. So that's going to be fun. Can't wait for that one. And we'll see what everyone thinks about what's going to happen to all these characters. Put it in the chat now so we can call you out.
Yeah, seriously. Or you can call us out.
Exactly. I know I'm going to be wrong. It's going to be great. And then after that, it's actually, weirdly, it's like 4th of July. So I think we're going to do a pre-recorded something. But after that, we should do a watch-along on some of our favorite Inquisitor episodes, whether it's Grand Inquisitor or the Seventh Sister, Fifth Brother. There's a lot of good ones in there, like Shroud of Darkness. Obviously, Twilight needs to be its own thing, and we need to find the right time and place to do that. But if you have any specific episodes that you want to do the watch-along for the Inquisitors on, we could probably do 2 in an hour long, or 3 if we really push it and we keep it like an hour 10 or something. So you guys can decide how you'd want to do something like that. But I think that'd be really fun.
We're always open to whatever you guys want us to cover. If you have questions about characters, please let us know in the chats.
Yes, throw it in the chat.
Delve into it.
Yes, definitely put it in the chat. And then as we start building the Andor, we'll do the Rogue One specific kind of episodes as we get close. We're sort of telegraphing how the season is going to go. I also think from a cadence perspective, we're going to try to do a live watch-along every other week or so. Mm-hmm. Given that there are like 80-ish episodes of Rebels, we do want to do like actual content discussion every other week, and then get into like long-form live discussion on just like a topic specific every other week, so it breaks it up. And if you have recommendations, send them our way.
Yeah, we want to hear what you guys think, and it's just as much your show as it is ours. We're united in fandom.
Yeah, exactly. And I love that there are other people who love Rebels so much that they're willing to jump in on a Monday night and just hang with us. Like, that's really, really fun. I could not have imagined that in, like, 2014, let me tell you.
I would have hoped for something like this in 2014. Because for many, many years I got, really? It's a kid's show? And I'm like, what are you talking about? So this means the world to me that you guys would be on here with us and watching with us and contributing your thoughts and conspiracy theories with us and,
Yeah, exactly. Same. So with that, we are at time already. I can't believe the hour evaporates when you're having fun. So thank you again, guys, for tuning in. We appreciate you joining us on these Monday nights. We'll be back next Monday, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific. Sparks of Rebellion watch along. Make sure your Disney Plus is like locked and ready to go. We'll do a little intro discussion, and then we'll watch the episode. And we all know the show. We've all seen these episodes. Let's try to pull apart the little like foreshadowing.
Get nitpicky.
Clues.
We want to see
things that we think are gonna come to fruition. 4 seasons later. I always like doing that kind of stuff. So bring your magnifying glass.
And don't forget we have our Kenobi Episode 5 watch-along on Thursday at 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. And we'll do Episode 6 the following week, and you guys will talk about both the Monday right after, so that'll be kind of a cool kind of companion thing.
Yeah.
So
Log on and tell us that we were wrong with all our theories about Kenobi today.
That's right. I'm gonna reevaluate. I'm gonna edit the chat. And be like, that was right. And yes, you guys should definitely tune into the Thursday night Obi-Wan Kenobi recap shows or that the boys are doing. I loved doing those.
It's so fun.
Yeah, it's a good group too. And as you know, Jeff is doing our behind the scenes. We've also got Dave helping us last week. I think he'll be in and out as needed. But they're on the channel with their own shows. I know the Unifying Force comes on Sundays or every other Sunday. So there's a lot of great content across this Facebook page, and I can't say thank you enough to the whole community here for, one, giving us this platform, but also giving us like great content throughout the week. Like I'm almost never on live, and I have to watch it after the fact because there's always something going on. But there's a lot of cool stuff across the channel.
It's so good, and, you know, they go above and beyond to make sure that everything is working and that, you know, we're all in the know, whether it be in celebration prep or weekly TV shows. These guys just rock it, so we really appreciate you guys.
Thank you very much. And with that, time to end the show.
That's right, we're past our hour. Thank you again, guys. Have a great night. May the Force be with you.
And May the Force be with you.
We'll see you Monday, next Monday, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific.
Bye.
Bye, guys.